This is a Fox News alert. Welcome to Hannity. America is at a turning point. A soft coup is taking place in this country. Why? To overturn election results in an effort to remove this president from office. Now, our must-see opening monologue is less than a minute away, but first we get an update on the special election in the Georgia Congressional 6th District.
Sean, Georgia's 6th congressional district will remain in Republican control. Karen Handel defeating Democrat John Ossoff in what was the most expensive House race in U.S. history. That seat was previously held by Republican Tom Price, who's now serving as President Trump's Secretary of Health and Human Services. While thanking her supporters, Handel says she's ready to get to work.
We have a lot of work to do, a lot of problems that we need to solve. We need to finish the drill on health care. We've got to do a better job for this economy so that we can create more jobs and better paying jobs.
The president reacting to Republicans winning all the special elections, tweeting, well, these special elections are over and those that want to make America great again are 5-0. All the fake news, all the money spent equals 0. I'm Jackie Ibanez. Now back to Hannity for all your headlines. Log on to foxnews.com.
And thanks, and of course, we'll have updates on that race throughout the hour. Also tonight, a soft coup is underway right here in the United States of America in an attempt to overturn November's election results and forcibly remove a duly elected president from office. Sinister forces quickly aligning in what is becoming now, in my mind, a clear and present danger. That is tonight's very important opening monologue. All right, so here in America, we're at a turning point tonight with forces now forming an alliance to try and remove President Trump from office. It's that serious. Now, here are the 5 dangers we are facing, especially the president. One, you've got the Destroy Trump media that has been lying to you now, provable lies for 11 months, nonstop. Trump-Russia collusion, black helicopter theories, no evidence whatsoever. 2, you've got what I've been calling the deep state, selectively leaking information to damage the president and anyone associated with him. 3, Special Counsel Mueller's investigation mission creep I've been telling you about. Well, it's now turned into an out of control, what is a political witch hunt. It needs to be stopped. 4, all this manufactured turmoil putting President Trump's agenda in jeopardy, which ends up directly impacting every one of you out there, the American people. And 5, this effort to override the will of the American people, change the results of a presidential election, is now creating a national security crisis. America is now suffering from a massive informational crisis because I call them the Destroy Trump media has routinely been exposed now. Agenda-driven propagandists more than happy to push debunked tinfoil hat conspiracy theories. For example, the media relentlessly peddling one of the biggest lies in American history, that is that the president colluded with the Russians. Now, that's because members of the media are nothing more than left-wing ideologues pretending to be journalists. Remember, they're the ones that colluded with Hillary Clinton, exposed by WikiLeaks in the 2016 election. The media has one clear, shared goal in mind, and that is to damage, stop, and destroy Trump's presidency. Sadly, it appears by any means necessary. We have been highlighting right here on this program, night after night, just how unhinged these people have become. And they don't care about facts. Obviously, they don't care about the truth, which is why the Washington Post, the New York Times, ABC, NBC, CNN, all exposed as having gotten their reporting wrong. But the Destroy Trump media, they're not the only ones whose collusion narrative, by the way, is completely crumbled. Take a list at the long list of Democrats admitting no evidence of collusion. 0. Zip. Take a look.
Well, the allegation, of course, is that the Russians in the hacking and dumping of documents in the election had essentially relationships with Trump campaign people. But I'm not prepared to say that there's proof you could take to a jury.
Do you agree with this conclusion that the president has reached, that there was no evidence of collusion?
We haven't seen any of that whatsoever, George. We've been looking and showing everything that they possibly have. That has not led to that.
The next threat and perhaps the most dangerous, the deep state. That is the unelected, what I call the fourth branch of government, consisting of a lot of Obama holdovers, anti-Trump bureaucrats who now are routinely targeting the president, his administration, with selective leaking to hurt him. Now, this deep state works closely with the Destroy Trump media to disseminate false information about the president and his administration. And what's even more dangerous, more sinister about the deep state is that they're willing to break the law, leaking classified information, like in the case of General Flynn. Then you have the former FBI director, James Comey, admitting under oath he had his memo leaked to the New York Times. He had a goal. He wanted the appointment of a special counsel. And a prime example is the unmasking of General Flynn. That was a violation of the Espionage Act. That's a crime. That's a felony, by the way. And then Flynn's Fourth Amendment rights, by the way, totally trampled on. You've heard nothing about it. There's no investigation there. Why? Again, the deep state, they don't care. They're only concerned with taking down President Trump and President Trump's associates. Then you've got number three, the special counsel. Look at Mueller's investigation mission creep. Remember, President Trump has called this the greatest political witch hunt in American history? Well, I'm here to tell you the president's right. Mueller's sole purpose was to investigate so-called Trump-Russia collusion. But Mueller is now expanding that investigation, and he's digging into finances and Jared Kushner and obstruction of justice. And guess what? He's not going to stop there. Why? Because there is no Trump-Russia collusion, so he has to move on to other things. And I'll tell you what's most alarming about this. Mueller is having massive conflicts of interest. He should recuse himself. He's incapable of carrying out a fair and impartial investigation. Now, Mueller needs to end this witch hunt right now. He's best friends with James Comey. The two have been best friends for a long time. And who do you think Mueller is going to side with when it comes to the president and his word versus James Comey's word? That's pretty obvious, pretty unfair. And then there's the fact that members of Mueller's investigative team, the lawyers he's hiring, many of them donated big bucks to, let's see, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton. And on top of that, perhaps most sinister, one of the lawyers Mueller has hired actually was Clinton's attorney at the Clinton Foundation, defending the Clinton Foundation against getting you information and preventing Freedom of Information Act requests. Oh, isn't that great about the foundation? Now, imagine for a second, just stand back, if Republicans ever try to pull anything like this. You know, let's hire Donald Trump's lawyer to investigate President Hillary Clinton. The left-wing outrage would be like nothing you've ever seen before. If Mueller wants to investigate actual crimes, actual collusion, by the way, a real Donald Trump or a real conspiracy with Russia, maybe he should focus attention on other things. Let's start with Loretta Lynch. Let's start with the Clintons. James Comey testified that Lynch influenced his investigation into Hillary Clinton's email server. Is that not the textbook definition of obstruction of justice? And if Democrats in the media want to talk about collusion, well, we can talk about collusion. You know, was it wrong for Loretta Lynch to meet Bill Clinton on the tarmac, or to convince James Comey not to say investigation but a matter? Or, as Sarah Carter and John Solomon have reported, was it wrong when she reported that Comey confronted her as having been in the tank for Hillary all along and put the kibosh on any indictment? What about when serving as Secretary of State? Hillary Clinton handed over 20% of America's uranium to who? Oh, Vladimir Putin, the Russians, the corrupt Uranium One deal. And while people involved in that deal donating, kicking back big dollars, millions of dollars to the Clinton Foundation, her husband doubling his speaking fees in Moscow. All this manufactured turmoil from the left, the Democrats, Destroy Trump media, the deep state, is creating a completely dysfunctional environment in Washington and for the country. And you, the American people, you're the ones suffering because these forces are slowing down what you voted for. A president enacting the agenda he promised means fewer jobs, less economic growth, no border wall, no tax reform, no repealing, replacing Obamacare, no getting people out of poverty, off of food stamps, back in the labor force, buying homes at a 51-year low. The longer these attacks continue, the longer it will take for you, the American people, to benefit for what you voted for, the president's policies and agenda. And all of this is now creating a very clear present danger to the country. The left is suffering well beyond Trump derangement syndrome. It's completely unhinged. Look at how vile some of their rhetoric has been.
Yes, I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
Pigs in a blanket! Fly like bacon! Pigs in a blanket! Fly like bacon!
I'll put Mr. Burgess up against Sean Hannity. He'll tear him up.
The press always asks me, don't I wish I were debating him? No, I wish we were in high school. I could take him behind the gym.
I think a more accurate football metaphor might have been the GOP just kicked America in the balls. Thank you.
It is a weird tension. I think it's a dangerous time for the First Amendment and for the free press in this country. And at the same time, we're oddly influential with the guy who wants to kill us.
How dare he say that to the crowd? How dare he say the things he does? Of course I want to punch him in the face.
Right.
You want to punch the president in the face and Madonna dreaming of blowing up the White House? Now, think about this. Now we have severed heads, Trump lookalikes in an ISIS pose. Now we have assassination lists in Alexandria, Virginia, and Republicans targeted for assassination. You don't think that's insanity? You don't think the left, their deranged hate and rhetoric, you don't think that this could ever be reconciled with, for example, some of the actions that's happening here? This is now reaching a point of no return. It's beyond serious. If these forces are successful, this country will not survive. If they continue with lies, propaganda, misinformation, and outright conspiracy theories, where do the people go to get their country back? And why don't they go after the people that we know committed actual crimes? Why aren't they investigating Loretta Lynch, Hillary Clinton, the deep state, the leaks that have been coming out, all illegal? Why are they going after only President Trump? Now, by the way, just so you know, this isn't about just President Trump. This isn't about just people around the president. This is more deeply about you, the American people. You know, it's a big middle finger right in your face. You know, these people don't care about you. Mueller, Rosenstein, Comey, Deep State, Destroy Trump Media, weak Republicans. They're not acting on your behalf. They don't seem to care how all of this is impacting you, your families, those of you out of work, in poverty, you know, on food stamps, those of you out of the labor force, 95 million of you. You know what? They think they're smarter than you. They know better than you. It's not about you to them. It's not about what you want. This is about what they want. If you're sick and tired of it, I think you should let your congressmen and women know. I think you should look at the media tonight and ask, are they telling you the truth anymore? We're at a turning point. You, the American people, have a profound choice to make here. You can let this continue to happen, watch the country descend into chaos. You can sit back, or you can stand up and fight for what you voted for back in November and the agenda that you want implemented in this country. Here with reaction, conservative commentator Monica Crowley. Am I overstating the case?
Amen, Brother Sean. I think you've really laid out very well what this president is up against. He is facing an unholy alliance between the left, the establishment on both sides, the media, the permanent federal bureaucracy, the deep state, and the international community. Now, as a presidential candidate, Donald Trump was strong enough to withstand the assaults coming at him from all of those elements. As president, it's something completely different. And I hope and pray that he is strong enough to withstand what is coming at him. This Russia thing is falling apart at the seams. And when it goes away, which it will, because there's no evidence whatsoever of the Russian collusion,
they've moved on.
They're perpetuating it. But when it is gone, and it will be gone relatively soon, they will find something else. They're not going to stop because we're confronting something much bigger. Donald Trump is regarded with sneering disgust by all of the elements that I just identified. And therefore, he's considered unworthy of the job and unworthy of the respect that goes with that job. But more importantly, Sean, he represents an existential threat to all of those elements that I just identified. Therefore, he must not be allowed to succeed. Because if he does, all of those elements lose their gravy trains, their power, and their influence. Therefore, they will use whatever political weapon they can and whatever legal weapon they can, including the special counsel, to try to not just discredit him. That we could actually survive and handle. They want to destroy his presidency, and they want to destroy him personally.
They don't get rid of this deep state and these leaking of intelligence. You can't control the media. They're agenda driven, and they're just propaganda, news at this particular point. but you can stop what's happening in the government.
Yeah.
All right.
Breaking tonight, the Obama White House was, quote, deeply concerned about evidence they had that Russia was trying to pull levers in our 2016 election. And yet, they basically, according to these reports today, let them go with a slap on the wrist. So the question now is why? That is one of two very big stories this Friday night as the Russia investigation now swings the spotlight onto the Obama administration. Good evening, everybody. I'm Martha McCallum. The other parallel story is this. Did Loretta Lynch provide assurances that her Justice Department would not let the investigation into Hillary Clinton's email server go, quote, too far? New letters from the Senate Judiciary Committee today reveal that although those emails may or may not have been fake, that is yet to be determined, they do want to speak directly with Ms. Lynch. Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Herridge joins us in a moment on that, but first, Chief National Correspondent Ed Henry here with the latest on this report that the Obama administration spent months debating in the White House over how to respond to Russia, and in the end, did very little.
Good evening, Martha. It's one of the biggest unanswered questions of this entire mess. If Democrats were, why didn't then President Barack Obama lift much more than a finger to try and stop it? The Washington Post revealing today in great detail how, as far back as last week, sensitive, eyes-only intelligence in trying to disrupt the American election. Obama aides then secretly debated about a dozen different options, but then did very little on the way out the door to retaliate. One former Obama official telling the Post, "It is the hardest thing about my entire time in government to defend. I feel like we sort of choked." When former Obama Homeland Security Chief Jay Johnson was pressed on the broad parameters of this under oath earlier this week, he insisted hindsight is always 20/20.
In retrospect, it would be easy for me to say that I should have bought a sleeping bag and camped out in front of the DNC.
The administration was so concerned. Why was it that suddenly after the election seemed, so much serious action was taken?
This didn't get the attention that I would have preferred to get.
I think the American people would have been a lot better informed.
I can tell you I issued statements.
That statements, not action. Now, in fairness to President Obama, he said late last year he was careful not to push back too hard against Russia out of a fear that it would incite even more hacking that could really interfere with the election. President Trump just sat down with our own Pete Hegseth for an interview that's airing on Fox and Friends this weekend, and it's clear the president is just not buying that explanation.
Well, I just heard today for the first time that Obama knew about Russia a long time before the election, and he did nothing about it. But nobody wants to talk about that. That the CIA gave him information on Russia a long time before they even, before the election. And I hardly see it. It's an amazing thing to me. In other words, the question is, if he had the information, why didn't he do something about it?
In one of his last news conferences before leaving office, President Obama told reporters that at a summit back in September, he privately told Putin, cut it out. Clearly, Martha, Putin just didn't listen.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a complicated tale when you think about the fact that the Obama administration at that point believed that Hillary Clinton was going to win the election. So the reflective look at why they made those decisions is just going to get more and more interesting all the time.
Did they think that she was going to win anyway, so leave well alone? Now, did they regret the fact that they didn't step in? In fairness to them, they say, look, if they had made a bigger public deal about it then, it might have looked like they were tilting it one way or another.
But then the rush to push all this information out about what they knew about interaction between Russia and supposedly the Trump administration right when they were heading out the door because they wanted to leave those tea leaves for other people to pick up on.
Investigations that are now in full swing.
All right. Thank you, Ed. Great to have you in New York. So now more on the breaking story, the other big breaking story tonight. The Senate Judiciary Committee sending a letter to former Attorney General Loretta Lynch. And they want her to hand over communications that she had on the Clinton email investigation. Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Herridge reports from Washington.
Martha, the senators are investigating whether Lynch tried to block the FBI case. The chairman and ranking member writing in this letter, they want relevant documents and answers from Lynch about media reports that she would not allow the FBI investigation into Hillary Clinton's mishandling of classified information to go too far, and whether those reported assurances were shared with then DNC Chair Debbie Wasserman Schultz. During his congressional testimony June 8th, Comey said he went public about the Clinton email case last summer because he lost confidence in Lynch. And in cryptic testimony, he appeared to reference a vital record.
There were other things that contributed to that. One significant item I know the committee's been briefed on, There's been some public accounts of it, which are nonsense, but I understand the committee's been briefed on the classified facts.
Another factor for Comey was Lynch's Arizona tarmac meeting with Bill Clinton just 1 week before Hillary Clinton's FBI interview July 4th weekend. Later that same month, Lynch was rebuked by the Republican chairman of the House Judiciary Committee for refusing to answer questions about the email case more than 70 times.
General Lynch, we are now about halfway through the members of this committee asking questions, and your refusal to answer questions regarding one of the most important investigations of someone who seeks to serve in the highest office in this land is an abdication of your responsibility.
There was no immediate comment from Lynch. Martha?
Thanks to Catherine Herridge. Here now, Pete Hoekstra, former chairman of the House Intelligence Committee and a former advisor to the Trump campaign, and Marie Harf, former Obama State Department spokesperson and a Fox News contributor. Welcome. Great to see both of you tonight. So, very big stories, and both of these sort of turning the lens now on the Obama administration and how they handled the question of Russian meddling. And Marie, you were in the administration at that time. With all of these concerns, why is it that all President Obama did was, sort of shake a finger, ostensibly, at Vladimir Putin and say, you better cut it out or else, and then they removed 35 diplomats from Russian facilities?
Well, there was a lot of debate at the time inside the administration. And you saw in that story today that John Kerry and others pushed for more forceful and aggressive action. And I do think that hindsight's 2020. Reasonable people can disagree about whether we should have done more. I will grant people that we were worried about looking too partisan. We were worried legitimately about provoking the Russians to do even more, to try and change vote tallies. But Martha, what I'm worried as I read all these stories and I look at what we did or didn't do, what I'm focused on today is this administration that's in power now doing things to prevent it from happening again? And I am not confident of that. In fact, I've heard the opposite. Are they correcting some of the mistakes they said we made?
Well, both are very interesting points. Pete, I want to get your thoughts on why the Obama administration might not have done more, especially if they were truly concerned that the voter tallies might be messed with in many states across this country. And secondarily, is the Trump administration not wanting to get too close to this issue because of this investigation in terms of calling Russia out on future electoral concerns? Is the president worried enough about this in your mind?
A number of questions there, Martha.
Yep.
First, I think what you see here is this is going to be the end of the investigation of the Trump administration. At least it should be. What this report comes out and shows is, number one, that the head of our intelligence community, they believe that the Russians' actions were not materially going to impact voter decisions as they approached Election Day. Number two, they clearly state that the Russians were not able to do any voter tabulation manipulation on Election Day. And number three, as they've stated before, there's no collusion. So why investigate Donald Trump and his campaign anymore? That is over. Now the question becomes, yes, what did the Obama administration do? Why didn't they do more? What did they know, and when did they know it? And those are lots of questions that need to be answered. So the focus now will be on the Obama administration. And regarding the Trump administration will deal with Russia, but they will deal with it in a private manner, and they will not broadcast what they're doing. It's exactly what Obama tried to do as he was walking out the door by putting these so-called cyber bombs into the cyber network for the infrastructure of Russia. Don't broadcast it. Don't tell them what they're doing. Keep it secret.
So, Marie, from your side of the political aisle, is there a concern that, boy, we have really fueled this flame in terms of this investigation to Russia? Now it's turning around and it's focusing on us and what we did in the Obama administration.
Well, I think there are issues that are related but are a little bit separate. And with all due respect to the congressman, two of those three things he just said aren't true. The intelligence community has not definitively said there's no collusion. That's exactly what is being investigated by the intelligence committees and by the special counsel. And they also have never said anything about, the Russian interference changing people's minds. They have said very clearly they didn't change vote tabulations. So look, we can debate and we can talk about what our administration did. I know that people disagree on what we did, and I'm happy to have that debate.
But the point is that now there's an investigation into what your administration did. They want Loretta Lynch there. They want to say, did you send an email that basically gave assurances that the Justice Department was not going to go too far when it looked into Hillary Clinton? And if that's the case, if that is true, that is huge. She would need to explain why she was obstructing justice into the email investigation, Marie. That's a big deal.
Well, the Hillary email investigation is completely separate from the Russia investigation. And sure, call Loretta Lynch up. I actually have some questions about why she did some of the things she did. I would love to hear some of those answers. But that is separate from the Russia investigation.
Apparently, they're having trouble finding her. Do you know where she's living now?
I don't. But what I would press the congressman on a little bit more is I have heard that the Trump administration is not focusing on preventing this from happening in the future again, in part because the president will not even definitively admit that they did it in the last election. And all Americans, regardless of party, should be worried about that.
Pete, quick response to that, and I got to go.
Yeah, I think the American people really want to know, which the article today didn't answer, what did the Russians actually do beyond stealing the DNC emails and perhaps releasing those to WikiLeaks? Loretta Lynch, the story there, 2 questions. Did Loretta Lynch actually say something like that? And why did it only raise concerns with Comey? Why didn't he begin investigating Loretta Lynch, his boss, for
That's
potential
a good question.
obstruction
He
of
said,
justice?
well, I considered a special counsel at that point because I was afraid that, she had a conflict of interest, but I just decided to take the ball in my own court and handle it from there. So there's a lot of new questions here as you dig in deeper to this whole thing.
A lot of questions.
Marie and Pete, thank you
That's
very
true.
much, you guys. Good to see you both.
Hey, great. Thank you.
Have a great weekend.